Yeah, he can talk to you about King John. So, hello, Katie. Hi, Katie.
Well, that's fine.
You guys, sorry I can't be there, but good to see
No,
you.
thank you for joining online.
I don't think you'll have to do anything, Katie, but just in case, I've promoted you to panelist. Just to keep things easy.
Okay. So I'm just going to start out with welcome and introductions. My name is Sarah Margulies, and I am the council liaison who serves on this group. And I have here with me.
Shannon O'Hare, I'm the assistant city manager for Larkspur, and I'm the primary staff person for the Climate Action Forum and for the point person for our sustainability program and climate action program in Larkspur.
And you're doing a great job on both accounts, I have to say. We're gonna talk more about that tonight when I get in.
Oh,
I'm David Muller, I'm a resident here in Northspur.
Maria Garcia. I'm a resident.
And is the last name Garcia?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, ma'am.
And then Paul Silva, also a Washington resident.
Robin Muller, also a Larkspur resident.
Great. Okay, so thank you all for joining us.
And we have Katie.
Oh, my apologies. And online,
Katie Straub Hutton, Larkspur resident. Hi, guys.
thanks, Katie. Sorry about that. And so thank you all for joining us for our regular meeting of the Climate Action Forum on June 10th well, we're just a little bit at 6:38 p.m. I'm going to start with my report and oral report and comments. I have a couple of things I wanted to bring to CAP tonight. Neither of them are Larkspur specific, but they are environmental. And so I want to bring them by our members to talk about two things. One is I have announced previously that I was appointed to the Environmental Quality Committee for Cal Cities. Yes, and so most recently at Cal Cities, we had a meeting and the discussion was about the Build Affordable California, which is a ballot initiative that is sponsored by, it's proposed for the November 2026 ballot, and it's sponsored by California Chamber of Commerce to streamline CEQA and permit streamlining to ensure essential projects can be built more affordable and faster timeline with less litigation and delay. While on the surface, those are noble goals, if approved, the initiative would further reduce municipal control over development, add a bigger haircut to CEQA, which already took a pretty big haircut last year. And this initiative, I wanted to let you know that as Larkspur, I voted to ask the board of directors for Cal Cities to oppose this initiative. And that's aligned with our conservation organization local here, Marin Conservation League. But there is hundreds of other conservation leagues and climate focused, environment focused organizations who are opposing this ballot initiative. So that was the first thing I wanted to bring up. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, anybody have any questions about that? Sorry.
I'm just highly concerned about the marginalization of CEQA or taking away those things. So I'm glad to hear that that's the position you took.
Yeah, and the Environmental Quality Committee took that position overall because there were two proposals. There was somebody who wanted to support it, but there were very few members of the committee who voted in favor to support. I think I didn't take the final vote, but I think it was 14 opposed, 2 abstained, two the opposite. So 14 were in support of recommending that the board of directors oppose, 2 were opposed to that, and 6 abstained of the total committee members, or approximately. So the environmental committee will take a position to have the board of directors oppose that initiative.
So this will be an initiative to be submitted to the voters?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
it would go to the ballot in November 2026.
Katie, do you have a question?
Yeah, maybe it's just an offline thing that I'd love to learn more about this, Councilwoman Margulies. And the only reason why I say it is I think I'll speak for myself by saying I also care a lot about the affordability issue in the state, right? And I'm sure I speak for a lot of folks too. And the ability to protect and build, sustainably while we do in fact build affordable housing and build the things that need to get built. Is I understand this is like a very simple yes, no, do we want to put this on the ballot? But like I would love to just learn more, and to the extent that you can point me to ways to learn more about it.
Absolutely.
I'm just keen on, I'm going to speak really bluntly for a moment. As someone that cares a lot about the climate and the environment, we can often get sort of grouped together as folks who aren't open to the change that's needed in order to make California more affordable. And I just don't think that's true. I think it's a miscategorization of what we're attempting to do. And so I'm really curious to hear more about other levers that can be pulled to advocate for sustainable buildings, including electrified buildings, while not standing in the way of important affordability measures. And that's a needle to thread, but I care a lot about it because I worry that like groups like ours get miscategorized when we are seen as consistently opposing important work.
Right.
And so,
Right.
sorry, it's probably an offline conversation, but it's just an issue I care a lot about. So I'd love to learn more.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that you care about affordability and affordable housing and not being seen as an opposition to that because of our interests in protecting climate. I can definitely talk to you more offline. I will also send you a link to the website where BACA's information is, and I will share with you information that was shared with me at the Environmental Quality Committee. I can share the staff report that talks about the pros and cons. But I think for me, the biggest issue was that there's well, it's a long conversation. Maybe let's take it offline, but I'll try to summarize it in saying that the one issue that I had mostly was that even if a city didn't want to take on the BACA compliance measures, they could, for their own public building, they could not use it's like a compliance measure. They pitch it as a really easy way to get things done, but developers could still come in and request to use that compliance measure. And so from a city's perspective, there are administrative costs with making sure that all of your staff understand how to use those compliance measures, and then also put together the very quick one pager that talks about the compliance measures. It's, I mean, it doesn't necessarily take us away from trying to provide affordable housing. So I'm gonna have to talk to you about it offline because it's pretty
Completely fine.
a
No,
longer
but
issue.
yeah, and thank you for humoring me. I'm happy to talk offline about it. It's very interesting and important. So thanks.
Sure, I would be happy to do that. Okay, and then the second thing I wanted to bring up was Mark Van Gorder, who is the government relations, local government affairs person at PG&E, has sent out information asking for cities, counties, and community organizations to support the Diablo Canyon extension. So Diablo Canyon has 2 nuclear power plants, and they remain in service until 2030. There's a group of people who are asking for an extension. If this is a carbon-free way of producing power, they're asking for extension to continue the use of these, or what they'd like to do is lobby our state assembly to have them put legislature in place, which would prolong the use of these facilities from 2030 to 2045 to basically augment our grid supply in the face of more electrification and data centers coming online. So like I said, the current deadline to take these nuclear plants offline is 2030. And they're urging the state to bring forward legislation to extend the operation. So there's a coalition called Diablo Canyon 2045 Coalition. As a community organization, I wondered if we would be interested in having him come talk to us about this coalition, or possibly supporting urging our legislature to consider extending the use of this facility to 2045.
Has this not already been extended once?
It has to 2030,
Yeah,
What was, and it was 2025 or what,
2030.
but what was it before?
to look it up.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't have the answer to that, but we could get that information.
Okay, but it's a familiar, topic, right? Okay.
Mhm. So
Right.
my question.
Oh,
go
sorry.
on.
Didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, my question is to CAF. Do we want to have Mark come in and talk to us about this coalition effort to urge the Senate to take up legislation to extend and talk to us about the Diablo Valley Coalition effort? That's one path we could take, and he has said he would make himself available and come in and talk to us about it. Or the second is, do we want to, as a community-based organization, endorse this effort? Or third, do we want to ask Larkspur as a city to consider endorsing the effort? So these are just thoughts, ideas, and as the person who's getting this information, I want to bring it back to you all, as our focus here is climate, and we have the ability to also influence council if we want to.
To answer your question, Robin, I just looked it up. So it was in 2016. It was before then it was scheduled to close, to wind down in 2024, close in 2025. And they created the 2030 deadline in 2022. I'm looking this up quickly. So again, this is not totally cited, but that also tracks for Make Sense.
Yes.
Again, this thing. We're gonna go, Katie, we'll get to you. We're gonna go around the room, and then I see you raised hand. David, do we hold us up? So going around Robin. David, do you wanna?
Paul, did you have your hand up already?
I didn't clock who.
I know there-
went first. Sorry, I feel like
Okay,
everyone raised their hand together.
I'll just comment. I think it'd be very interesting to hear what the representative has to say, because I certainly would have a lot of questions about that. I have to say, I'm not so sure this forum is the right forum for that presentation to
Okay.
take place. In terms of, our focus really is on Larkspur and its residents taking actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So I don't know, how it would fit in, like, is that, a 15-minute presentation or something like that. So I'm a little leery
Okay.
of it diverting us from our primary mission. If you look back at our mission, it's all very Larkspur focused.
Mhm.
But I do think in a larger forum that brings a lot more people together, like Rend Conservation League, for example. I mean, there's typically 50 to 70 people in those meetings, and they represent all the environmental organizations in the county.
Okay.
So people could get something like that there and then
Okay.
go back to their organizations and repeat that. I think that might be more efficient.
Okay.
But I, for one, would absolutely not be inclined to endorse that without finding out a lot more
Yeah.
about it and having some discussion. So I'm just saying, for me personally.
Okay.
So it's a nuclear.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the only operating nuclear power plant in California.
So
It has 2 units.
if we are thinking about sustainability, the options, I think there are many other alternatives than nuclear plants. And I would not approve of that.
Katie, can you hear okay?
I didn't hear the last part of what you said. You would like what?
I think we should think about other alternatives, because this plant seems to be old
Okay.
for the beginning of the talk. And I think we conserve this kind of system that we know that can represent not the best alternative for
Okay.
us. I think it's not the idea for us in sustainability and this kind of source of energy can bring.
Paul, did you want to say something?
I know this is a very big issue,
Yeah.
and I know there are good arguments on each side.
Mm-hmm.
And I just would suggest that if the representative from the pro extension comes, it would be good to have somebody from representing the opposing point of view, so that both points of view can be heard.
Okay,
Whether the forum is here or as David suggests, whether it's Marine Conservation League or some other forum.
And that would be a great setup for Marine Conservation League to have at the same meeting, you know,
And,
someone.
and they're good at doing that.
No, they're really good.
yeah, okay,
That's good. Hey, can I add one other thing to this particular one? It'll be really short. So I just want to point out that nuclear power is a non-greenhouse gas emitting source of generation. And when California lawmakers talk about renewable energy, or MCE talks about renewable energy, that they use the word renewable excludes Diablo Canyon. It does not qualify under the definition of renewable, and yet it's greenhouse gas free
Okay.
generation. So it has a big positive in that it is not emitting greenhouse gas, and it's over 2,000 megawatts. It's big.
Mhm.
It's really big, and that's like the whole state. If everything's turned on at once, demands about, I think, about 35,000 megawatts now. So 2,000 is a lot in the mix. It's one of the biggest. I think it probably is the biggest power plant in California.
I didn't
So
notice that.
so it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and if it defers bringing more fossil fuel plants online,
Yeah.
you know, probably
Yeah.
better. It may be better to allow that to run for a few more years than bring on new fossil fuel power plants. So I just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to say one other thing too, and that is the definition of renewable does not include large hydropower plants either.
Okay,
And there's thousands of megawatts of large hydro in California that does not come under the moniker of renewable, which was a totally political thing, even though it's totally renewable.
Okay.
So there's some curious things around this that most people are not aware of. I happen to be aware of it because I worked in that industry for decades. So just wanted to share that with you.
thanks, Stephen.
Katie?
I'd like to echo those comments. I think those were really good comments, and add one more, which is in support of a different forum, because there are only
Okay.
7 of us here, and it
Yeah.
seems like not a very effective endorsement or venue or presentation spot.
Okay, so maybe I can work with Marin Conservation League and see if they would like to.
Seems
host
like a good
the
idea,
conversation.
and I would assume that that guy has approached them as well, but if he hasn't, then yeah.
I had
Did
good
you have,
context
Katie had her
for it.
hand raised. I want to make sure, did you have something to
It's-
add?
I would just agree. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. I have a lot of thoughts on nuclear too, but I think I would love to I'd be happy to advocate in my personal network for people to join something like that if they care a lot about it. But I agree that we can stay focused on our influencing of Larkspur residents to take actions within Larkspur. So important topic, but I think I would be very happy to be in attendance at the MCL.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Okay, that was it from me. Thank you for all your input, and I will take the action to work with MCL to see if we can have them host a conversation. And in addition to bringing somebody who's in favor of this, having somebody who is opposed to it, so we can hear both sides of the argument.
I know for a fact that MCL is looking for speakers right now. They've asked
Okay,
participants to come up with topics for future meetings, so they'd probably welcome this.
great.
Not to give you more homework, Sarah, but if we're reaching out to them, and also Sarah's on our ledge committee as well, if the Marine Conservation League, et cetera, Katie, you're interested in some of the legislation, et cetera, I believe, do they do a legislative wrap up? Or
At
something
MCL?
at the Marine Conservation League or anything when the legislative session closes?
Typically,
As
Okay.
it closes, because that might be something just again to like share with the CAF if you're interested in attending somewhere else. There's things going on around the region where there's again more people do a lot of work around that. Because I think, right, it ends in September. It ends in August. The governor signs, right? Either the governor signs off, vetoes, or lets it die, and then the laws generally go into effect Jan 1. So if there's something like that, if it's of interest to the CAF and stuff, we can also share that. If other groups are,
Like a legislative wrap up, is that what you're saying?
if they do kind of a legislative wrap up at
Right,
Marine
conservation,
Conservation
okay.
League or other,
Okay.
I can also reach out to some other groups. I'll ask MCEP, where again,
Okay,
people have different perspective and pros and cons and stuff, where there'll be different audiences and people can discuss some of the different settings that are beyond Larkspur.
okay. All right, thank you, Shannon. All right, so now we're gonna move on to public comment. And Paul, I know you had something you wanted to share with us, so.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And particularly, we're talking outside about how, with all the bad news in the of the assaults on our environment, it's good to be here with people who care about the environment, fighting against those things. So I still remember, I guess because of my age, the first Earth Day, and all of the oil and the dying birds, and of course at that
Where
time.
we're in.
I was in San Francisco, the beach there, yes, yeah, and yes, you were.
Was it 1989, did you say?
No.
No, that was
71.
1970, the first Earth Day. Well, yeah, there were the different oil spills, Santa Barbara, and then the San Francisco Bay, and then the first Earth Day in 1970 also was partly in response to the Cuyahoga River in Ohio catching fire not once but twice, and so things were really bad. It was the largest, I think, public expression of protest in the entire world at that time. And then now we're 56 years later, and I hope that everything will be solved. But actually, what happened is that 20 years later, there was the realization things hadn't all gotten better. And so there was the Rio conference, the Earth Summit. And that was when the conventions, international conventions were signed on these. There were these, now there's a recognition that there are these three intertwined elements of our environmental crisis: the biodiversity crisis, the climate crisis, and the pollution crisis. Now, in terms of the United States, well, the United States is the only member of the United Nations that has not signed the Biodiversity Convention. Of course, we know it did sign the Climate Convention and then pulled out. So we do have a problem here in this country. Now, California has tried to step up to fill some of the gap, particularly in the biodiversity area. And so the two governors, Jerry Brown and Gavin Newsom, have issued executive orders, the biodiversity initiative, the 30 by 30 initiative, and then there's been state legislature action. The Room to Roam Act, I think, was the most recent one, protecting migratory wildlife. And then recognizing that the native plants are the foundation of the rest of the food web. The insects depend on the plants, the birds depend on the plants, we depend on the plants. And so that was some, and also the growing water shortage in California inspired Laura Friedman in 2023 to, member of the Assembly, to introduce AB 1573 that would require the use of California native plants in new public and commercial landscapes. And this bill sailed through the Assembly, I think it was almost unanimously approved, had widespread support in the Senate. A lot of community organizations, municipalities supported it. And it passed through the first two Senate subcommittees or committees. And the last committee it arrived at was the Senate Appropriations Committee before going to the Senate floor. And it was sabotaged by somebody who just took out the word native and just put in plants. So it didn't make any more sense. So that obviously plants would be used in landscape. Okay, so meanwhile, this is interesting because we're talking about how a lot of local jurisdictions sometimes go ahead of the state. So this was happening. A lot of local cities and towns were passing native plant measures. And so people who were involved in the first effort in 2023 at the statewide level were thinking that maybe this bottom-up approach would be actually more effective than the top-down approach. And so this year, 2026, saw the birth of this statewide effort to coordinate efforts among cities and towns at local levels. And it's a two-way communication pathway. So first of all, the state group suggested a course of action for localities to first propose and pass resolutions that will lead to the formation of working groups that would then propose local ordinances that would fit the local conditions. And so I've been part of that group, and several, the rest of us in Larkspur from our group have been also participating. And so we got together and put together our version of what would sort of fit the statewide effort. And because, Larkspur's already taken the lead, it's right outside. Larkspur's doing a lot of great stuff. And I have to acknowledge Laura Lovett, who just passed away last month. Also Dana Swisher, Janet and Rich Cimino, who have been responsible for a lot of this work in Larkspur. I thought it was very appropriate for Larkspur to be represented and recognized in this statewide effort. So I talked with, met with, Mayor Stephanie Andre, and she was very, favorably impressed, but what she said was, maybe we don't really need another committee in Larkspur at this time. Although technically speaking, a working group would not be an official committee of the city. I don't know how that works. You probably know that. And so, the draft resolution is sort of following the statewide model, calling for the formation of a working group. But what Stephanie suggested was that this group already being composed environmentally forward-thinking people might be the group to bring that to which this resolution could be brought for further action. And so that's why I'm here. And the larger group is ready to come to a meeting of this group or to the city council and present more information. The draft resolution has a lot of links in it. I actually asked within the statewide group, why are there so many whereases in the sort of in all of these resolutions? And the response, because I didn't think they were that useful, but the response I got was, well, up and down the state, it seems like city councils like them. So I was like, okay, that's what they like. And so I think a lot of people are looking to the city of Encinitas in San Diego County that has already gone ahead. It passed the resolution last year, or early this year, then formed the working group, and they proposed an ordinance, and I think they just passed the ordinance. So what I guess the two questions we have are, what can Larkspur do locally, and then what can Larkspur contribute to the statewide discussion? So what are Larkspur's concerns? What are Larkspur's particular strengths in this area? How can we communicate those going from the bottom up? And then, what would we really like to do in Larkspur to advance this work?
Okay. So thank you for that public comment. So what we do typically is take that as an item that we could agendize
Sure.
for another meeting. But certainly, David, if you want to ask a
And I
question.
know I'm accustomed to running Brown Act meetings, so I know that in the Brown Act meeting, you definitely don't want to have any comment, but.
Yeah, but we're here.
That's why we're organized like this.
Meeting, so we get to have comments, but I definitely would like to put it out to our members who are here tonight, also after David asks his question as to
Well,
whether.
it's not really a question, but there's a model for doing exactly what you're talking about. About 3 years ago, a group of Larkspur residents, not with any formal organization, wanted to advance a climate emergency resolution, which many jurisdictions in Wren County and statewide had already adopted. Very similar, sounds like to what you're doing. And we brought that forward, and ultimately the council adopted it with no formal organization at all. So you need not have any committee, or you need not have any formal organization. If you've already got a group of people that are wanting to see this happen, and you have a draft resolution that models after others, and that's a standard format to set up a resolution. Those are called recitals, whereas.
Yeah.
That sets the stage that then, therefore, whatever the resolution says. I would recommend I don't have a big problem with this group taking that on. But again, it's not directly aligned with greenhouse gas reduction. It's biodiversity.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, you don't need this group to do that. We did exactly a similar process about 3 years ago with the climate resolution, and it was unanimously adopted by the city council.
Well, I guess I've talked to 2 city council members. I guess I take their advice on it.
Well, the Mayor Andre suggested that he come here and talk to us because it is aligned with climate, although it's not exactly our mission, which is to prioritize our climate action plan. Actually, I would say from a water conservation standpoint, adopting a resolution that requires that the town uses native plants and drought tolerant plants and any of its landscaping works moving forward does sort of align with
Yeah,
what we're
to be
doing.
clear, I'm not opposed to it coming through here. I'm just saying it's not at all necessary.
Right.
If you have a
Wonderful,
group,
thank you for that.
and I would
That's-
point out that council member Mayor Andre was not on the council and has no knowledge of that history with the
Yeah.
climate emergency resolution. So I'm just saying, it would make sense right now from her experience on the council, bring it through the climate
Action for-
action forum. which is okay. I'm just saying it's not necessary. And if you already have a group of aligned people, you might want to think about just that group with the sole purpose, that one resolution is to move forward.
Yeah.
That could easily be done.
Well, thank you. No,
And we did.
It's nice to know that there is a model.
Yeah.
And, you know, again,
Well,
I'm happy to do whatever.
And either way, I'd be happy to provide some examples of the path that we took 3
Okay.
years ago to get there.
Yeah.
yeah, so the draft resolution for Larkspur calls for the formation of a working group to study how to move forward with an ordinance at a later date. So I think what David's point is that it's not necessary to have a working group if you already have that within Larkspur. If you already have one that you are a Larkspur resident and other local Marin County residents want to bring this to council to ask council to agendize it, then we can also just take it up directly through council as a resolution to be adopted for the city of Larkspur.
Well, getting away from all the formalities of the groups and all that. I just value all you fine people for your experience and your knowledge. And we're happy to do whatever. It would be the case.
Since we're coming on this, it seems like the appropriate thing is to agendize this. It sounds like there's conversation to be had about it. And there's a certain logic, as you say, that says this is environmentally related, climate related stuff. And I would theorize that Paul might have more success with a broader base. So it's a vote to say, talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Katie, do you have any comments?
I think she did that.
Sorry, I'm here. Well, thank you, Paul, for sharing that. And I share the interest in the topic. And I think I would be supportive of the expedited pathway that David described, just because with hearing about that feels like it's probably your fastest path to success and possibly getting an ordinance at the city level, which I think is going to be the most impactful. I think the one caution always very happy to have you here and always very happy to have like fellow climate folks in lockstep. I do think, and this we'll get into this in the rest of this meeting, I think a lot of the efforts of CAF in the last few months has really been to super prioritize on encouraging the largest emission reduction driver actions for residents. So while I know that biodiversity and water conservation is in our climate action plan for the super short term, next 6 to 12 months, I know this group has worked to try to really laser focus a plan of 300 ideas and 300 options down to 20. And I would love to see a world where CAF can continue down that path while you and your coalition move ahead with our support on an expedited pathway toward an ordinance getting passed by the council as it relates to biodiversity. So I think both things can find a fast path prioritized to get both things done. So thank you.
Okay. So I'm hearing that we should agendize it as a CAF meeting for discussion. But also I'm hearing that it could be expedited directly to council for consideration. I would say that from my perspective, I think it would be nice for Paul to be able to bring this to council saying definitively, I've spoken with Climate Action Forum, we've had discussion on this, and the group is very supportive of this, and that he could take it at that point and then take it to council. But I mean, unless we today consider we're in a position to say, just from what he's shared with us, that we're supportive and he should just go, straight, make a beeline to council, I would also propose that we agendize it and try to get it on to, but the other side of that is that we only meet every other month. So that does, protract your timeline. And I don't want to get in the way of you moving more quickly. That said, council will be taking a month off. We go dark the second meeting in July and the first meeting in August. So we could potentially have this on our agenda for discussion in our CAF meeting for August, which will be our next CAF meeting, and then we could bring, Paul, you could bring it to council the third week, I'm sorry, of August. Am I making sense what I'm saying?
That's fine, yes, and I also want to be respectful of this.
Yeah.
Forum's time, because I know I did see the long list, and I know
Yeah.
you do want to focus on these issues. So, whatever you think is best, and I would appreciate, maybe David, if you maybe could send me a little background on
Sure.
how, on the other initiative. And then the question I guess for me, in terms of going before council, I think we would need a little bit of advice on whether to go the resolution first or actually go directly to the ordinance. And that's, I guess, the question.
I would give you strong advice on that. Do the resolution
Yes.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's much easier for the council to adopt a resolution, whereas an ordinance has to go through, is
The
way more
problem
rigorous.
was that Stephanie thought that because the resolution calls for formation of a working group, it might not.
Yeah, well, could we
Well, maybe
could we
not
not
do
remove
that.
that?
You could take that one out.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's the thing that we learned with the climate emergency resolution is we definitely tuned it specifically for Larkspur.
Uh-huh.
It had similar elements to all the others, but we added some and took some out.
Yeah.
So, it's great to have a broader effort to use as models. And well, something very similar to this has been adopted here, and here. What's with Larkspur,
So the ultimate goal would be an ordinance, but then, so just wondering, two-step approach.
so the resolution is actually just to form a working group, so I think that, no, I haven't actually read the resolution yet. So maybe that needs to be a next step too, is that we all as CAF members need to read the resolution to see if that's all that the resolution is calling for, is to form a working group to actually then propose the ordinance, then that's why you're here. Does CAF want to support Paul in moving forward with, or would we, I'm getting caught in this.
I think your idea of agendizing it here,
And then,
Paul can make a more formal thing, walk us through the resolution,
Okay.
what the goal is of the ordinance, and then we can say, yeah, that sounds good or not, or whatever.
Okay.
But it's kind of hard to figure it out without.
Without the resolution.
Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, yeah. And we can talk also
yes,
before maybe the next meeting and figure out how
absolutely.
we, okay, thank you.
So let's do that. We'll plan to agendize it for our August
Uh-huh.
meeting. And in the meantime, we will share the resolution with all of our members, and it will be on our draft agenda for August so that people have time to review it. And then you'll come back and talk to hopefully more members of CAP at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your taking time to consider this, even though I know you've got a full schedule. And I just would add that one of the advantages of doing this is that at the international level, we're reflecting on the progress we're making on environmental issues, are trying to unsilo the different efforts. So the climate people talk to the biodiversity people, to talk to the pollution people, and so that we have win-win situations all around. So.
Thank you.
Is your starting affiliation the California Native Plant Society?
That was the one of the main groups that was behind that was supporting AB 1573. It is housing, I think, the beginning of this effort. The Xerxes Society is also joined in. And I don't know about the bird groups and other conservationists, but I think everybody's sort of joining in.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. We will definitely stay in touch and let's plan for an August agenda.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our staff update. To you, Shannon.
I'm gonna move, in the interest of time, a couple of items up to the top. So we'll do the summary of the May 18th meeting is essentially what staff is doing an update based on all of the feedback we got, et cetera. I have a couple of exciting updates as well as just informing things that are still in process and where we are. While everyone's here, before anyone has to dip, especially because we now have something new agendized for the August meeting. We regularly meet on the off months on the second Wednesday. So the next meeting would be the second Wednesday in August, but looking at calendars and where folks are, et cetera, no interest in holding a meeting if everyone can't be here and if it doesn't work. So staff was wondering what folks' availability was August 25th, 26th, or 27th for an evening meeting. We have some staff that'll be summer, like August is kind of when a lot of us, August and December is when we dip out because other people are on vacation, et cetera. So we have some conflicts, et cetera. And I had some other staff members from the team who I was hoping might be able to talk to folks depending on how the agenda works out. So is anyone totally out in August? Are folks available the 25th,
Which
26th?
days in a week are those?
Yeah,
Tuesday,
so
Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and
I'm
Thursday.
out of the state starting on Wednesday. I
Okay.
could do Tuesday, the
Okay.
25th.
And that's is that
26th.
third or second Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday?
I think it's the last.
It's the last.
It's the
So
last.
would it be? Yeah.
It's the fourth of each of those.
Um,
And there'd be a council meeting on the 19th. That would be the first after the recess. Is that right?
Correct. Mhm.
Those
We
dates are
wanna
going to be
cover-
tough for me, Shannon. I'm going to be on a boat, so it's unlikely that I'll be able to. Well, certainly don't work around just me, but if you have quorum that can't make it, I would definitely. It will be harder for me to make than usual. I could call in remotely, but
Katie,
it would be
you-
challenging.
I see you do have that meeting on the 24th already. The
25th.
The MEC meeting on the 25th, sorry, 25th already.
Electrification Council on the 25th, Tuesday.
Have to phone a friend on that one, but we'll.
Okay.
I'm locking in the
Katie?
times that we're on about.
Are you also unavailable on the 26th, 27th?
Yes, I would like to declare myself unavailable on those days.
Okay.
I have had limited success on the boat, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's a bit hard for me to opine. The best version of this is probably not. But boat life.
Katie, when do you think you'll be back in September?
Yeah, let me get you those exact dates. I'll report back my blackout dates here in a second. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll cover some other stuff, Katie. So whenever you're ready, and I think you have privileges. You could totally up to you, but I think you can also drop things in the chat if that's easier. For calendaring stuff.
Great.
Okay, we'll return to that. And then I wanted to let folks know that our meeting next Wednesday for the city council on July 1, there will be a business
No,
items or
You're jumping.
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I'm
June 17th.
sorry. I have notes. Thank you.
Okay.
17th. We will be covering, it'll be a business item, so very broad, no decisions will be made, and this will likely be one of a few different agendized items. It's a workshop, the topic is a workshop, and it'll be on, the city manager will be presenting an overview on how the city determines fees. It's a broad topic, it's not just climate. I know there's a lot of interest in the Climate Action Forum about our fees at the counter for permits, for electric vehicle charging, et cetera. Just to warn everybody, this is a much broader conversation and there's a lot of interest in the community. So it'll also cover things like development impact fees, other fees we have. And again, it's just a starting point, but I do encourage folks from CAF to attend the meeting if you're interested or listen to the meeting. If you're interested or look for the item, there will be a staff report, but a lot of it will be a conversation with the council and the community. So if there's public comment submitted ahead of time, I know some of our CAF members are diligent in putting a written public comment ahead of a council meeting. That would be an opportunity for interested CAF members to say, we'd be interested if the city, talked about electric vehicle charging fees in this way. We've had some of those conversations in the community, or we're interested in specifically, over-the-counter fees or something that's close to your heart. Those would all be good feedback for staff to have. And again, not everything will be addressed at that workshop, but it'll be good for the council to hear what the community is interested in, and then for staff also to hear. So when there's follow-up conversations, follow-up workshops, and then if there's items where there's action for the council for CAF's interest to be represented.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In your just casual discussions with Dan, city manager, on the subject of potential waiving fees or reducing fees to encourage certain actions. I mean, it's right, it's
Mhm.
written in here in this. What sort of a response? Is he open to that idea?
I don't want to speak for the city manager,
Right.
so, and in terms of open to the idea, I get that this sounds like a little bit of a cop-out, but we have a new community development director and a new chief building official. So part of that, when staff was having preliminary conversations, et cetera, the community development director, Elise Simonian, who still is a Larkspur resident, if you see her around town. She's all over Europe, so she's living her best life. She's a Larkspur resident, but she's probably not here right now. But, she said, I'm about to retire. The way business might be done, my successor should really be the person to have that conversation about what work, what not work. So kind of on purpose, we put a pin in it because we didn't want to start a process, have someone inherit something where even if they didn't have a different philosophy about fees themselves, they might have a totally different approach about what's waived, how you work with folks, et cetera.
So has Andy opined on this at all? I mean, in your staff discussion, I'm just saying, it sounds like you're encouraging us to make comments. Is there an opening to consider some fee adjustment around to encourage certain actions?
Well, there wouldn't be, if there was no room for any fees or for council to make policy decisions around that, there wouldn't be the item, right? There would be a memo or report saying, we're not going to move, or we think it would be completely, fiscally insolvent. And, then staff would take the hard line of we're really looking at kneecapping the city in terms of our operations being able to.
An interesting image.
I went to grad school in New Jersey.
I was gonna say, where'd you learn that one?
So there's open to that, but have there been specific discussion, I don't want to get,
Right.
too inside baseball around
Yeah.
specific
I
discussion.
just wondered, if there was some public comment around that, is it worth doing that? It
Yes.
sounds like you think.
Yes, so yes, because I'm sharing it.
Yes.
And city manager, to your point about Dan's openness, he said, tell CAF, not that he says don't, he's like, share it at the meeting. This is a good opportunity for folks who are interested, that
Yeah.
it doesn't pass by at the council level without, our engaged community knowing about it.
I have to say, I know we're going to get to this, but I thought one of the absolutely most creative items on here was the one that apparently you and staff came up with, was the one about potentially offering 1 year of free EV charging for the first 5 Larkspur residents in a given year to register an EV. I thought that was like, wow, that's out of the box thinking. That's great.
Councilmember Margulies.
That was a good one. A good one.
And then to your point about the community development director and community development, at a future meeting, over the summer, I'll share with CAF, there is going to be, again, a business item, so no decisions are going to be made, but an electrification overview again, because it's electrification policy is on that. That is where, in terms of openness and talking about what it would mean to waive fees or to give certain kinds of credits, where community development will present, this is essentially our business model, right? This is how much of our budget comes from fees. This is what we would, lose in budget, or what council would make a decision to subsidize, right? Move the burden from the developer, homeowner, acceptor to the general taxpayer for, the perceived benefit. That meeting will have some of that.
And I mean, I'm just gonna bring it up because we have a budget. Climate Action Forum has money. So if for some reason council was not in favor of subsidizing, we could potentially put up some of our own budget. So I think
I like that thinking.
the bottom line for what Shannon's saying is the next couple of meetings are going to be pretty important for climate action folks to show up if you can and make public comment. Yeah.
So I just want to show that. Katie, I'm sorry, did you put something in the chat? I want to just make sure I don't,
Sorry,
Yeah,
there's no
sorry.
chat functionality, Shannon.
Oh,
I think
don't-
it's
sorry, 'cause
something
we're
weird
in
about that.
webinar, because we're in webinar. So do you have your boat life dates or any
Yeah.
out of town dates?
Sorry to oversubscribe you all to my goings on here. Yeah, I'm my blackout dates are August 23rd to September 7th.
Okay, thank you. So what about before? Is there any way we could do it before the 23rd or no?
I'm here. I'm here all
here
through
too.
I'm here all through the summer. I'm not taking any time off, so I'm available. If
I-
other folks are.
Yeah, I'm only gone the 8th through the 15th,
What would be the normal date for August?
12th, I think.
The
Yeah.
12th.
Yeah.
Well, we could just do it on the 12th, right? There's-
Yeah, I won't be here, but that's,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
that's okay. You guys could do it. I've already asked Councilmember Andre, or sorry, Mayor Andre, to be my alternate and run the
Jump
meeting.
over the table.
The other
we-
reason why I wanted to maybe move it is that some of these items, I was hoping, depending on what the feedback I have from the forum, et cetera, to invite other, you know, you guys, I know you love me, but you're tired of hearing me talk, to invite, especially because we have quite a bit happening with community development and public works for potentially Andrew Mogensen, our community development director, to attend the next CAF meeting and discuss in a more conversational setting some of this stuff around fees and community development, et cetera. He's around most of the summer, but he is on the at our usual meeting date on the 12th. So we can,
Well,
you know, we can hold extra.
how
I
about
would,
sometime during the week of the 17th. That would be before Katie leaves. And Sarah, are you around that week?
Mhm.
Well, that seems like the right week to target. Week of the
That's what I was
17th.
thinking too, if we can do it before the 25th.
I don't think you're very available that week.
On what?
I'm going to, I know this is like a dreaded thing, but please respond, folks. I think we're headed into doodle poll territory here because now also on the spot, I want to make sure that I don't, especially if I want staff here, I don't want to program us against a planning commission meeting or another special meeting that might be there for.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Yeah,
do
sure.
that. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, I'm really sorry. You know, I've got a conflicting meeting every month at the same date, this Wednesday, and I had an extra long one today.
It's okay. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And good news is we're probably gonna have the next meeting not on the regular date, so hopefully you won't be in conflict.
That would be great. if We could change it.
Okay, all right, so, we're gonna do a doodle
Set their
poll.
phones down.
We'll figure out our next date for August. Anything else that you want?
One other thing, which this is your prerogative, but again, since we have folks here, if we wanted to maybe talk for the July parade and engaging into, if you wanted to set something up. Because it was
Yes.
it's kind of awesome.
Okay, so just a brief talk about the 4th of July parade. So we discussed at our last CAF meeting having a presence, and this is also part of our 5th priority, which is to do community outreach and education. And one good way to do that is get some publicity during our 4th of July parade, which is well attended and mostly Larkspur residents. So I'm available to march in the parade and plan to. I know Tom said he was available. I did get an email just before this meeting from Lila, who was the student who joined us from Redwood, to say that she had brought it up at her student council meeting, and she thinks that there will be a couple, maybe a few people who will be interested in attending CAF and or attending the July 4th parade. She is in finals week, so she couldn't come tonight, but she is definitely interested in participating in this moving forward. So that's
Great.
great news. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, and we'll try to keep getting more students involved. I sent her back a message asking her, could confirm whether or not she would be involved and willing to march in the parade and maybe get a couple other people and whether or not they might be willing to wear costumes. I know Katie said she might be able to help with costumes, so I loved that idea, and I think it will really, make more flash and splash and attention for Climate Action Forum. We have this little electric John Deere ATV vehicle that we can use. Pretty sure I haven't confirmed it, but I'm pretty sure we can use it. And I even said to Shannon, like, maybe we could tow some like recycle bins or something so that people along the sides of the streets who have trash and recycle could dump it in. So, this is just ideating and would love to know if any of you are willing to participate in the parade, whether you'll be here, I don't know.
I think the idea of having a presence is a great idea. And I think all the ideas you've mentioned sound great. Personally, I'm not available. that
Okay.
day.
Okay. Paul,
Yeah, I'd be here.
would you join us?
Kind of fun. Give me
Okay,
a good costume.
okay, great. I love it. How about you, Maria? Yeah. You'd like to join us? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We'd love to have marchers. And David?
I am questionable.
Okay.
So I would not be a person that you could rely on for this, but
Okay.
if things worked out, I could possibly do it.
Okay. Even
But
maybe
I can't be an organizer.
Okay. All right, Katie, I know you're
I am
not,
I am not present. I don't, unfortunately, we don't do 4th of July's here, but I can officially commit to helping build costumes if there is no one else to build the costumes. I think it
Okay.
would be much better if Lila and her amazing group of drama kids that she mentioned, I think
Yeah.
it'd be better and more authentic if they do it. But if
Yeah.
there's no one and people are like, where are costumes? We want them. I will do it. It would be
Okay.
give me great pleasure. But I can't be there. So it's
Okay.
not the best solution, but I do think it's really attention grabbing for something like a parade, like to have high school kids wearing costumes or anyone
Yeah.
from the community, like having it be fun.
I agree.
And I wish I could be there wearing one myself, but count me in to support that if and only if the drama department declines.
Okay, or, I'm also willing to help with that too, Katie, if we need to. Anybody know anywhere where we might just be able to get already made costumes? That,
I don't think those are great costumes.
no, I'm
Yeah,
not,
I
I
think
was, I was
you can get
thinking,
ready-made heat pump hot water heater costumes.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, it
No,
depends
I
on what
think,
you
I think it's like the posters at the marches. I think the homemade posters are way better than
Yeah.
Yeah, so
manufactured ones.
So in terms of concept, what these two remember back in the day on King Mountain, we were in the parade twice back then, and we made costumes using cardboard boxes.
Yeah,
And it would be pretty easy to take
fun.
cardboard boxes and I mean, literally, you could get these from a plumber because the equipment comes in them. Boxes for hot water heaters, and you could get boxes for heat pump space heaters,
mhm,
and you could even possibly just use them with the badging on them that comes on the box from the manufacturer. So
That's a
it
nice
says
idea.
Mitsubishi heat pump space heater right on the
Work
box.
smart.
And then what you do is you wear the
Work
box.
smart.
Yeah. I mean, we've literally did this back in the King Mountain day where we took boxes like that. We were doing something else with boxes, but we cut out the ends of the boxes. And not to get too specific here, we made just simple cloth straps,
mhm,
hot glued to the inside of the boxes. So the straps went over the shoulders.
mhm.
So a person could put on the box, their hands are free, and it's okay to make holes in the side of the box and put the hands out. It's kind of fun. Their head is sticking out.
Mhm.
You got a box, and either the box could have the authentic labeling, or what we did back in the day, we used rollers and painted that over the graphics on the box, and then put on the box what we wanted.
Okay.
So if it's a box to be a heat pump water heater, you could simply write on it, heat pump water heater.
Right.
And there goes a heat pump water. I mean,
Yeah.
it gets the idea.
It sticks, yeah.
What I like about it too is you could also on that theme. Sorry, now we're just having creative ideation session, but like we could build them after the 4 or 5 key pillars of CAF, right? Like EV charger,
Yeah,
Yep.
build a heat pump water heater, a heat pump for building electrification. You could do like your electric lawn equipment could be one of them, like
okay.
I think I like the idea of the concept being each person in the parade is wearing some form of box that represents
One of the
uh, you
priorities.
know one of the priorities or multiple within one priority, and that way you have kind of like a concept and it's easy to make.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's pretty
I love
easy to
that.
make.
Okay.
And your comment about electric hand tools, literally there could be 1 or 2 people with electric leaf blowers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just walking
I have
down the
one.
street, showing
I can-
that they're powerful.
Yeah, I have one too.
So,
Yeah, okay.
so this
Lightweight.
would be a pretty doable thing.
Yeah.
And that concept of the boxes with the internal straps, with or without holes in the side, roller, paint them and put on, or if you can get boxes that are correctly labeled already.
Get 2 people
Wonderful.
on their bus
Okay.
So it sounds
Well,
like
and you could put a couple of boxes together and make it an EV.
Yeah.
we have the EV
It's
again.
so
We can- we
cute.
have, if we can
Yeah.
use Rec 1, we have a EV and EV of.
I think that using the John Deere
The John-
ATV
yeah.
electric is better because it's open and it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Rec 1.
Oh, Rec 1. Okay. All right, let's move on. I think.
So, okay, but just to wrap this up, we have enough people to where I'm gonna put in something now to the July 4th.
As
Okay.
Larkspur
Great.
Climate Action Forum, is that
Yeah.
gonna be the organization?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will
Great.
get back to folks. We have.
Get the word out.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
I just want to make sure we got to that. Or we move on, okay. Everybody's favorite thing, spreadsheet.
So we're gonna move on, but I gotta tell you one thing, our boxes. Have you seen those kind of puzzles where you turn the thing over and it spells different things? Our boxes said different things when the people walking down the street would turn.
Oh,
It
it said
said
something.
King Mountain,
Yeah.
for example,
Oh.
and when it turned, it had questions. It says, like, because we were setting up
Right.
an assessment district, what costs the same as 1 6-pack a month? What do you look at every day? What open space acquisition is pending? And then we would all turn it, it said King Mountain in big letters. So that's what
That's
we
cute. Okay.
Katie, I'm hoping
pictures
that
of-
we'll be able
yeah.
to see your raised hand, et cetera, but don't be shy if you want to jump in here when we're in spreadsheet land, so I have to toggle back and forth.
Yep.
I want to make sure I don't miss you.
So we're gonna work off of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it's pretty small. We're just gonna work off of this.
This one looks like it's an 8.5.
I know. Um,
I even looked at it with a magnifying glass and I could read it.
So we took the spreadsheet we had at the last special meeting. Staff did some work to kind of refine the feedback we heard, have some more dates, et cetera. Councilmember Margulies' liaison worked also, and I'm going to talk about ideation, lots of ideation in that meeting of additional actions we could take or concrete things we could really do to focus on the next fiscal year, right? Because climate change will be with us, fortunately, probably for all of our lifetimes at least, right? It'll keep on changing and
I like that at least.
I'm just trying to be real. I'm not a climate scientist, but
Maybe at least for the next generation, things will be better.
but we did want to focus on actionable things on the forum, and kind of the purpose of the forum, et cetera, is to move things along, make recommendations to council, do things at the staff level, et cetera. So to bring this back to the broader group. We'll go through the specific actions here if that sounds good to folks. Just keep it moving, and again, raise your hand if you want to interject, et cetera, if there's other ideas and all of that. So we're starting with the EV charging, one of our priorities. A was to identify potential private and public sites for EV charging, develop the conceptual costs and timelines, and keep a prioritized rolling project pipeline list and add priority projects for city funding to capital improvement plan. And so I just memorialized this for everyone, what the status notes were and then what the CAF additions were to also memorialize what, CAF brought to the table and helped us refining what it is. So for the 26-27 goals, to potentially add the Piper Park EV infrastructure upgrade.
Okay, so I was just gonna chime in on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I brought that up at our
Yeah.
last council meeting, whether or not we needed to add it as a item on the capital improvement plan. And the way that city manager described the capital improvement plan was that these are unfunded projects. It would get added as an unfunded project, that are, nods to council that if we find funding, they would get added. And what I was told at the meeting is that we already have EV infrastructure as part of the rec building project. It is underway. There's a process in which our Director of Public Works is going to try to get funding through PG&E. And so there's a work in progress already to get funding. So I declined to ask them to add it to the capital improvement plan as an unfunded project because it is in the project, even though it wasn't listed as part of the rec building capital improvement project, which is actually from last fiscal year, council authorized budget for it. So he's in the process of trying to get funding through other mechanisms, and at some point will come to council if he needs additional funding from council to get approval to amend the budget.
But why not just put it on the list?
Because my thought was that he's already looking for funding for it, and the way it was described to me as the unfunded list is a project that is a nod to council. It was established as a policy that having something on the unfunded project list is a nod to council that if funding is found to move it in. I don't know. I got a little bit confused, to be honest. I just didn't think that it was necessary. Maybe it was not the right move, but what I heard from Julian Skinner and what I heard from city manager was it's underway. We're looking for funding and it will be part of the project.
Yeah, didn't you say it's part of the rec project already?
It is, but it's not, there's no budget that has been approved for it, right?
For that element?
Yes, yeah. And there was something to do with getting federal funding that it's, that federal funding, if we get it, you have to use it in a very specific timeline. And so I got a little bit, I could have said, yes, put it on the unfunded and ask council to all agree that that was the right thing to do. I'll admit, I was a little bit not sure if that was necessary. I felt that it wasn't necessary. From what I was hearing from our director of public works and from our city manager, that it was gonna happen. It's part of the budget.
May I make a suggestion on this or offer an idea anyway?
Yeah,
Obviously, we can't understand it any better than you understand it, so, but maybe it would be worth, perhaps before the next meeting, for you to loop back with the director of public works and just say, can I revisit that with you? I'm not quite clear on how that works, but just say you want to be confident that that's going to go ahead, one way or the other.
okay,
I'm just saying to double check, and
Yeah.
there's still going to be a chance to protest down the line if you aren't convinced, right?
Yeah.
When the budget gets approved.
Yeah. All right, I will.
I
I'll loop back and then maybe I can bring the results of my conversation back to Kath and report back to you guys so that it's clear.
I want to say personally, I feel like if staff says that we're going to find funding for this, I trust them to do that.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle, but it does sound like you might follow up.
okay. That sounds good. I will do that. That's a good suggestion. Thanks, David.
And then we had to identify additional sites with conceptual timeline. And with that, in terms of the status, we kind of identified the site, and then Public Works to present an overview of current and planned projects, possible sites and limitations to public charging opportunities in Larkspur, including timeline, logistics, and costs. I get that this is a specific item to follow up, but we wanted to ask at this CAF meeting, I talked about community development staff attending one of these meetings and talking about the community development department and what they do. But if there's interest in CAF, and I don't want to say urgency, right? But like, we meet every other month. When you would like, pending Public Work Director Julian Skinner's availability, if you would like for that to be an item and for Julian Skinner to attend one of the meetings and really go through how the overview of like what our planned projects are, how we actually do sites, and what the limitations are. And it's a little more of a granular presentation and conversation that we usually wouldn't have at the council level because there's lots of business at council, et cetera. And usually we're bringing up staff to this analysis. Do you trust our analysis? Here's the over under. If CAF is interested in a little bit more about like how the sausage is made or what the thought process is, and when we looked at, what's possible in Larkspur to have our city engineer and public works director have that as a discussion item.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Well, the other thing is that I think that it's kind of interesting in the context of what happened with the library and the solar on the library, just somehow it didn't get included for a long time. And, that's nobody's fault or whatever. But just so that we understand the process and we
Yeah.
know.
And
what
having
needs-
that
The
opportunity for
conversation's
input
good.
early on. having that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I think you're saying you would like to hear that briefly.
Yeah, I would.
I think it would be
Directly
good.
opposed to exactly what you just suggested, that I have a follow-up conversation with him. He can come here and tell us all how that's gonna work. He has assured me on the dais that it's part of the project, but there's different funds that he's going after, so he can bring it here and describe it to all of us at the same time, how that process works.
Yes, I think that item 3 is a really important item. And I had a couple of comments on that when I read through this before the meeting. One is I would like to see that say, including a review of the countywide EV acceleration strategy and the site study that was done by Transportation Authority of Marin about 2 years ago. So just to basically leverage work that's already been done in his review of sites. That we don't miss stuff that's already bubbled up there. And then to Tom's point, I think it's quite possible that in the course of doing a presentation to this group, people might say, what about this? Or what about this? That there might be things, that would come up. So I think it'd be really worthwhile. And that could then be, the idea of even having this item in here is to be, rather than looking at subjects like EV charging incrementally, is look at them more holistically and then identify the top opportunities and then go after those incrementally, but have it in the context. So there doesn't end up being a lot of effort put into a site that maybe there was a much better site that just didn't get identified. Do you recall right offhand how for the with the recreation facility, the expansion of the park, how many additional charging ports there are going to be? I mean, it's like
I can look it
4
up for us
8.
off the, I don't want to speak off the dome because I'm gonna get it wrong. I can look it up though.
Okay, well, I would just add that one thing about including review in those 2 reports.
Staff's okay with this if there's any objections. Is there that, I think based on the interest in, in CAF, et cetera, I would, as staff, aside from maybe a couple of housekeeping items, pretty much have the bulk of that meeting be that discussion. I think it'll take up the better part of
Could be.
2 hours. Or we certainly would, if we certainly
There,
want to budget for it.
there are some other items in here like the sign plan that.
Yeah, we could leverage.
Right, so it could all be part of the same thing. I mean, there could be like a meeting that has EV charging focus. It's the sites, it's the signs, it's the outreach to the community. There were some really good ideas. This is you guys did a really good job taking the priorities that were identified and coming up with some real specific how to do that stuff. Some really good stuff in there. Especially the first 5 registered EVs get free charging for a year.
Agreed. I know I can't raise my hand, so I'm going to annoyingly butt in and say I agree and thank you. And I'm not sure if I heard this correctly, but I like the idea of organizing like potential meetings with staff or key leaders around everything underneath EV, everything underneath building electrification. So maybe I misheard that, David, but
No,
I think that'd be really
that's
really
the
good use of
idea,
time.
Katie. Are folks generally going to be around in November? Again, I'm not asking, but like for our next the
Yes.
second week of November. So let me check with the public works.
Why November, why not October? We're August,
Sorry.
October.
Yeah, we're doing August. Yeah, October. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. Is it going to run October second week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe he's in office, but let me just check with our public works director if our regular meeting works with his schedule. And we can have that be kind of the public works, the public works CAF meeting, and we'll do EV charging then as we go down this list. We've identified where it might be appropriate for public works to be involved, but also if there's members of the CAF who say like, actually, I'm really interested in what public works has to say about this. Let's take notes on that now. So when we develop out that agenda, that staff can do that work. Okay.
So I've added also review of the EV acceleration plan and the TAM planning.
It was a TAM EV charger location study.
TAM,
And so what they did, they went countywide I don't remember the exact name of the report. I would say it was about 2 years ago, might have been 3. They went countywide and identified countywide high priority locations for EV charging. And that would have included Larkspur. So,
Okay, great. I'm actually eager to find that myself, David, because my understanding is that they have some funding available for curbside charging, and that probably those sites would probably have been identified.
could well be.
Okay,
Could well be.
all right.
And,
So not only, I mean, he'll be talking to us about not only the sites that we've identified here in Larkspur, he'll also talk to us about the path forward to getting funding for the EV infrastructure in Piper Park. And how many heads we're planning to support there when we upgrade the EV infrastructure. And then he will also refer to the, how it aligns with the acceleration adoption plan and the TAM charger location study, if we can figure out exactly what that is.
Yeah, and I think in addition to the TAM study, I'm not sure how much the TAM study has gotten into rental housing. But
As I recall, it was mostly on publicly owned.
that's what I put.
I don't think it got into private property.
Okay.
Yeah. But, given that 45% of California residents are renters,
Mhm.
I think we really need to emphasize making EVs more accessible.
And the majority of Larkspur residents, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna get down to another 3 down, the third item. Is focused exactly on that. So I think this whole first thing is about EVs, right?
EV.
yes, we're in EV, we're in
Yeah.
EV land.
So it's all things EV.
On this side, the next one on the adopt the county model reach code requiring EV ready and EVSC installs above Cal Green for newly constructed building and major remodels. We had the general thing, but we had a note in here that we wanted some clarification from CAF on what exactly this ask would be above and beyond what staff's current project is, which is going through our code, right? Going through our code and seeing what the electrification opportunities are. And if we establish reach codes, what is the exact ask about the EVSE installs above Cal Green for newly constructed buildings? Is there a specific document that there was a vision of being linked back to or something when we were all talking in that meeting? That was in my notes.
Yeah, I can answer
Is there?
that. So, and I can't give you the exact percentages, but it's like, Cal Green Tier 1 says, I'm gonna make this up.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
you get the concept. It'll say for new multifamily dwelling, at least, I'm making these numbers up, at least 15% of the parking spaces provided have to have EV chargers. And another 15% have to be EV ready, and another person have to be EV capable. So what the reach code would be is to be up those percentages. And I think the county currently in its EV charging reach code, which actually members of the Red Electrification Council, our countywide group, helped actually craft that. I think the numbers were more like 25. So I think that my recollection is that even the Cal Green, the numbers were like 15% of this and 15% of that, 15. And I think the county adopted like 25%. So it was simply a percent thing.
Call that out, reconcile that on those percentages.
Yeah,
Because
you'll have to
we'll-
look.
And we'll go after two because community development is deep in this in 2025 building code. development.
And
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The thing that is interesting here is that the EV acceleration plan was written in 2023,
Mhm.
and the 2025 building code has already increased, and so the baseline is higher than it was back then. So
right.
what we're asking for is, okay, so now the baseline is perhaps what they were suggesting as a reach code back in 2023 may actually equal that. I don't know this to be
That-
true,
that
but
doesn't
now
mean
we
we
want
should-
their 10%.
Exactly. And what I'm suggesting is especially check with the county. Mark Chabria would be the guy to contact.
Okay,
And just find out, I mean, he can probably tell you right off the cuff, how does the county's current percentages in its EV charger reach code compare with current Calgary tier one?
Okay.
I think he could just answer that right off the cuff.
That's
Or you
good
could,
if you could do that.
you can do your own research, but so the idea was to just keep
Yeah,
nudging
push
that
it
percentage
further.
up.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, you know, if somebody's building multifamily housing and, you know, there are some right around here proposed and there's gonna be more,
Gonna be some built, yeah.
is the reality is, you know, people look today and say, well, only a certain percent of people have EVs, but that building's gonna be there 50, 75 years. And let's face it, you turn the clock forward 10, 15 years, it's gonna be all EVs. And every one of those residences is gonna want to have a charger.
I think also, just to be frank, I mean, they're developers, they're gonna put in the minimum.
They
Fill
absolutely
the
are.
requirement.
They
It's the
absolutely
least amount of money for them. So
They're-
we're gonna have to give them some kind of incentive or have a reach code that says no. And I'm not sure, based on all of the laws that have been passed to try to push affordable housing, there may be ways for them to get around that.
Absolutely. They
Right,
could
with
waive.
their bonus density and those types of things. So
They
we
could
could
waive.
still have something in place to try to.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, another resource that I think we should start to figure into our planning is MCE. You know, there's some changes coming with
Mhm.
MCE,
Mhm.
and, you know, essentially, the fact is, the more EV chargers there are, the more electricity is going to them and even to PG&E. But, you know, essentially, I think that they've supported EVs in many respects thus far. I think that going forward, I think it should be just kind of part of their incentive structure, you know, where they have grant programs. They've already had grant programs for certain multifamily improvements.
These
And,
are improvements, though, not for new development.
yeah, that's true. But I think that for new development as well, if, you know, they can be involved. I mean, they're a public entity, you know, and we have
MCE,
Washford
yes.
MCE, and we
Yes.
have a representative to their board.
Yes.
And, you know, I just think we should be thinking about
How can we get
how,
them
how
to?
can, yeah, how can MCE be part of our ability to plan?
Yeah, okay. So how can we leverage MCE in our planning for EV infrastructure? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Next is to engage large employers and multifamily property owners to install EV charging by providing pre-vetted vendors, plug-and-play site packs, layout load sample agreements, and other means. So the goal was to identify one multifamily or commercial employer or business in this fiscal year to partner with and support bringing EV infrastructure, just do some outreach. And so the climate liaison will work with staff to identify property owners by July 30th and have an outreach meeting scheduled for August.
So I have a comment on this one. You'll recall that Reed Baxter came to several of our CAF meetings.
Talk to Reed.
And I met him several times separately, as others did, to talk about this. And I think he would be pretty open to this. I know there's conversation he's had for curbside charging stuff. So I think for this, it could say, you know, meet with one or identify one. But I really want to encourage you to target Reed.
We
'Cause
will.
I think
I've already
he's the
had a
guy.
conversation with him.
And you may or
It's-
may or may not know this, but Bon Air Apartments is huge. I forget the number. It's a staggering, it's like 600 units, I think is the number.
Yeah,
It's staggering how big Bon Air Apartments is.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we can get him rolling in this direction, and he's very involved in the countywide chamber of commerce and stuff. He shows up at other jurisdictions, planning meetings where there's multifamily development stuff. So if we can get him
Committed.
rolling in this direction,
Yeah.
it's gonna bring others along too.
Exactly.
And that those
good
conversations
guy.
are happening. Even just so you know.
Next is to create a playbook or framework to provide at counter for incentivizing developers to increase charging beyond minimum. So the deadline we set was August 30th, and I have to coordinate with our community development department. I've done some outreach to some of our neighbors to see what they're currently doing in terms of outreach, et cetera. And that'll be an August project.
Great. Really good stuff.
And then next is to require, allow, provide EV charger location signage for public chargers to improve visibility and wayfinding and update the sign ordinance in support of that. Sorry, folks.
Sure would be nice if there was a state or federal policy that we could all conform
Yeah.
to.
And I have to say that this is, I don't have any comment on this, the way it's written, but I want to again emphasize that one of the main reasons to have the wayfinding and the signage up is not so much for the people who already own EVs, they can figure it out, no problem. It's for the people that don't. So that the same way when they're driving down the road, they see a gas station and the price and everything, we want them to see EV charger signage. So they go, "Oh, yeah,
Agree.
there,
Agree.
there, there." So
Yeah.
it's a curious thing, but it's
Mhm.
almost more for the people that
Promoting
don't have
EV. Yeah, yeah.
than the people that do.
Yeah, it's gonna be easy to find a charging place.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons I hear from people in my network is that they're just worried that they have to get something installed in their house. And this, if they're constantly driving by an EV sign, I can point them to that EV charger sign.
Okay.
So we already pending availability, Public Works Director to join us at our October 14th meeting. We can talk about sign ordinance and have some of the research done. I've already been told by our Public Works folks that we can do like basic EV signs around town, et cetera, at certain, certain sizes, and we can show you maybe some mock-ups.
Yeah.
That wouldn't require anything to change the sign ordinance. And then hear from the CAF, he can walk through like, these are the kinds of signs that would require a change to our ordinance and trigger that, and or when Councilmember Margulies and I were meeting about this spreadsheet 100 years ago when I first joined Larkspur, it wasn't for a climate project, it was for a different project. But if you're, on an off ramp on 101, or if it's certain things where it's either Caltrans property, Caltrans responsibility, or in the liminal space between Caltrans and us where jurisdiction changes, there's a process to where you have to engage Caltrans. And there's things that can be done and can't be done, et cetera. Public Works Director Skinner knows about all of that, and he's done that a number of times in his career. I looked at a big scary packet when people were interested in it and saw things about if you want to do tourism promotion or sites of interest, et cetera, how you engage your regional Caltrans folks. But I think that would be a good opportunity to say hey, we can just do this and print some, in our shop, print some signs, put up some EV signs around, identify maybe some good areas, and then also, what triggers the change. And I think we can actually, I don't want to speak for the CAF and we haven't done all the research on this. I suspect a lot of what the goal is in terms of assuaging range anxiety for Larkspur residents who are EV curious can be done without a change to the sign ordinance. But if there is an ordinance update that would be required where we just think we can't get there, we set the goal of having that be recommended to bring to council as a business item in winter 2026. And again, for folks who don't join us all the time, we don't bring ordinances a lot of times straight away because we don't want ordinances to have a false start, or we want to see what the interest is or what some of the input about how things would be changed before we engage the city attorney, go through the whole process, and then constrain ourselves in the public hearing process. So, and then there was discussion at that meeting in terms of showing exactly what all is there to create an infographic that would be, friendly by printout, friendly by, card, and friendly by, putting it in a special edition of the Climate Corner or putting it online to show both public and publicly available private property EV charging sites in Larkspur. And so that's a staff graphic design project, and it's anticipated to be done by end of July.
Right.
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to take off now.
Okay.
Thank you all for doing this wonderful.
Thank you.
I need your contact information to be able to send that to you. Just write it down.
Is it possible to turn off the air?
It's not, I'm sorry, because we're still
Might be a little less.
working on
Okay.
it.
I know.
Air conditioning.
It's locked
It's
down
extra.
and we're still, I would say we're working at the building is fine in terms of actual extortion, but in terms of the software, we're working on the settings so that It doesn't go from cooling to heat right away, and then they start talking, they start fighting with each other if you set it right on the border.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm gonna keep moving through, especially because we have half an hour. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Building electrification. Big focus for, I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, my bad. We were talking about this is coming up, this is coming to council. But I have these dates as August and September. Is it coming sooner?
Let me double check by the end of this meeting. August was what it was,
Okay, so,
was what it was slated for.
okay.
And what is this that would be coming forward?
It would be the business item where community development would be talking about the green, that's the green building code, electrification, et cetera.
Thank you.
And the overview of, you know, how they, you know, how things operate in Lawrenceburg, how the building department operates, and then, you know, what Cal Green Tier 1 would get us, what's already in the 2025 building code. And then, they're working very hard on this. Also, I had promised, and we didn't do it because we were under a time constraint. No, what actually is in Larkspur, right? Like, what do our commercial properties look like? What do our residential properties look like? What's single family? What does multifamily look like? And what does this, you know, what do these different parts of the Tier 1 code get us? So that's what they're.
So it's mostly an identification of stuff as.
It's identification of what exactly is in the code. The council asked that because I went and said, like, we're gonna pass it all and city attorney says we can change it if it doesn't make sense, but we don't have time to analyze all of this.
So
This is the analysis.
So I want to mention one other thing that I think is a little vague in my mind right now. When the council at its January something meeting adopted the 2025 building code generally.
Yeah.
If you look at the actual resolution that adopted all that stuff, it also adopts Cal Green Tier 1.
With exceptions.
With the energy exception, exactly. And at a subsequent meeting, staff said, no, we didn't adopt Cal Green Tier 1. And I asked Dan about that because I said, you know, I actually went back and read the resolution, and in the resolution, it does adopt Cal Green Tier 1 with the exception of the energy requirements. And he said, oh, what that wasn't the 2025 Cal Green Tier 1. We were re-adopting the 2022 Cal Green Tier 1, but it doesn't say that.
Oh,
The
interesting.
2022 is not in there. So I think it would be a good idea as part of this to try and get to the bottom of that, because the way it reads, at least by my read, is the council has already adopted
Yeah.
2025 Cal Green Tier 1, which I would like them to.
Yeah.
Absent the energy requirements. And I think that was the intent. But Dan was,
Well,
but
we
a
did
subsequent,
adopt those.
but a subsequent meeting, he said, no, we didn't. So I don't know, there just needs to be some clarification around it. The other thing I want to throw out here is there is another concept that a bunch of jurisdictions have adopted now, not so much in Marin County, but outside of Marin County, called building performance standards. And typically they're applied to larger buildings, like you can pick the size, you know, building has to be at least 20,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet. So typically more commercial scale buildings.
Mhm.
And this is a legal approach now, that the jurisdiction says you, building owner, need to meet these building energy performance standards. And what we're going to do is we're going to ramp them down over time. So you need to keep doing things that improve your building's energy performance over the time. And it's up to you what you do. It's certainly one thing that a lot of building owners will do. They'll move toward electrification to improve the
Right.
building's energy performance. But Yeah, a lot of jurisdictions are starting to adopt this. There's some in the South Bay, some bigger jurisdictions. I've been told San Francisco, City and County of San Francisco is adopting this. So I'm just throwing this out. If there's going to be some sort of an analysis done of what, exactly what is going on in Larkspur right now with what has been adopted, it may be worth taking a look at the prospect of potentially adopting an energy performance standard for larger buildings.
Got it.
And the as part of that, it would be, does Larkspur even have any such buildings that it would apply to? And the answer may be no, or it's not enough to doing, or there may be a bunch. I really don't know. But you can imagine at the very least that could apply to like the big shopping centers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Marin Mart.
Marin Mart and Bon Air Shopping Center.
What is it? Bevmo,
Bevmo.
Trader Joe's and that whole area. Those are large.
Yeah,
areas.
so there probably are some. So I'm just saying that's an approach that Larkspur might want to take a look at, of adopting a building energy performance standard ordinance for large commercial buildings that simply says over time you have to improve your energy performance, and it doesn't go afoul of the Ninth Circuit Court decision, because you're not saying you can't use gas.
Right.
You figure out how to do it.
You just have to
Just
do it
around
over a
it.
period of time.
You can insulate, you can,
Yeah, you can
convert,
use insulation.
you can do whatever you need to do, but
So I'm gonna kind of speed run through some
Yep.
of
Yeah.
this so we can get there. So I think we kind of landed on if Director Skinner can join us. I think with Cass' blessing that we can talk about the electrification specifications that will be available in the RFP for the recreation building. We already kind of identified the charging, but I think he'll be here. He can talk about that project.
Yep.
So I think we all put that in that meeting and we can get a lot of the status updates around some of these items there.
Tom, that just goes to your question about, the fact that some of the sustainability measures were not included in the library from the get-go. I have been told very specifically that those sustainability measures will be part of the RFP when we put an RFP out for building of the rec building.
Right.
So he can talk to us about that.
And I believe if we're tracking, they're developing the RFP right now. The RFP might be out there and publicly available to share. And if not in concept, he'll be able to walk through the components of it. All right, promote electric appliance benefits. The immediate, win we want is a special edition of the Climate Corner highlighting rebates and then put an ad campaign behind that. That's kind of the immediate thing, and that'll be in September. So that's upcoming in the next couple months. Okay, equipment electrification.
so is the concept that addition would be the whole?
Yeah,
whole thing?
so the concept is that edition is like just the climate,
Yeah.
just the climate corner.
Yep.
And then we have a number of different components. So I know we didn't call it out there, but like rebates, et cetera. I know we had a meeting today with Resilient Neighborhoods. Katie pitched that it's really compelling to hear things from like people who've gone through the process, et cetera, and have some personal testimonials to give it that community
Great, yeah,
touch.
that's a great idea.
So if we could get some quotes, they're working on it to incorporate that as well. Pitch Resilient Neighborhoods, pitch what we're doing, et cetera. So just a kind of super, super powered.
I had a terminology around, I can't, it's too small. I can't show you exactly where it is, but when it was talking about getting testimonials, it was from RN residents or something. What was it?
Resilient neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and not nurses, although nurses are welcome if they went through the program, but I know sometimes the multiple meetings. Adopt and enforce municipal codes that require strongly encourage residences from businesses to electrify.
Wait a minute, let's go. What about the good news?
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, Sarah, I'll let you share this. So
Well, I mean, can I share everything I know or?
Yep.
Okay. So, okay, so Shannon talked to MCEP and none of the other jurisdictions are in a position to move forward with electric mowers. But they're very interested in, what we're doing and would like to follow up our path and would like to be kept abreast of how
Do we have an
impactful
electric mower?
He wasn't at the last meeting. So,
I'm so sorry. Okay, so last meeting, we had a discussion about whether or not we might want to consider using some of our CAF money from the past fiscal year, because we're gonna have 50K for the next fiscal year too, to sponsor purchasing an electric mower for a rideable mower for our maintenance crew. And CAF asked that we go to MCEP, or Shannon go to her MCEP meeting and see if we could get other jurisdictions interested in that, potentially go to the manufacturer and negotiate on behalf of 10 jurisdictions that are interested. But it turns out none are. So we have had conversations with the manufacturer. It's actually a division of John Deere. And they went very well. They're very eager to sell us an electric mower. So much so that they docked it by like about $6,000. And
Nice.
we're not sure if they have them in stock. I'm very hopeful that they do, and it's not going to be a delayed delivery, but something we can get on, out in the public view very quickly, since we're in the prime of grass cutting season. And these mowers are being run, simultaneously. We currently have 2 fossil fuel mowers that are run simultaneously. One at Piper Park and another that's trailered to the other parks. So we are underway in discussions to purchase one, but then Shannon and I were talking today with Bob Quinn, who is our director of the maintenance crew, about storage of these vehicles, as well as potentially how we're going to charge them, and some of the details, the nuts and bolts of, it's easy to buy it, but then how do you manage the, storage of it, the charging of it, the actual use of it. We learned from the manufacturer that even though that battery life says it has 8 hours, it really and probably only works for 4 hours. So when we started talking, she was like, the other thing we're going to have to consider is where we're charging it. I don't know if our corporate yard has the proper fixture for charging an electric mower. So we may have to build a little infrastructure, put our own 220 volt. I don't know what it requires. We don't know those details. And I said, well, if we're going to have to build that, then maybe we should buy 2 mowers. And because we have 2 mowers right now. And one was near end of life, one of them. And so Director Skinner had put on the budget a $30,000 line item, and that's where we talked about want to buy an electric mower. So I'm interested in potentially, going back to that. Well, if you're going to buy one and they have some that they're trying to move, let's see if we can get a better deal for 2. And if we're going to have to build some charging infrastructure, it's better to build charging infrastructure for 2 than 1, right? We're getting better return on our investment if we're building a charging infrastructure for 2. So the price is like around $32,000 without tax. There's considerable tax in there. And then one of the features that it doesn't come with, which we need, is a shade feature for the person operating. So that has to be negotiated. So as I was talking to Shannon today, I got really excited. I was like, look, if we get 2 for like $70,000, $75,000, then we can maybe, eke out some of our 26-27 budget. I would be favorable towards that, and have no gas mowers in use except for as backup. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, and I don't know. Did I share too much here?
No.
Because I just got really excited.
Really? It doesn't come through at all.
Yeah.
Well, I have one thought on this. So, and we didn't really get into this last week, our last meeting, is we did a little bit, is sort of what the capacity factor is on these. I'm not talking about
Right.
the battery life, but I'm talking how many days a week are they used?
We're still in process in
Okay.
terms of Bob's working on it, and then also getting the data to send over to the MCEP analyst about what would the savings be in terms of greenhouse gas emissions.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're still working on it.
So I would be really take a look at that, because while it's being used, it's obviously saving greenhouse gas emissions. But if it's only used 10% of the time or something like that, it might not translate
Right
into
into a huge savings. Good
a
point.
huge savings.
I do also, I make this pitch a lot. Again, this is a staff pitch, but there's two things that I think are kind of unique about this for the climate action forum to consider. And one is, in terms of, we were talking about, really signaling to the community what's possible.
Mhm.
Like that is a highly visible piece of equipment. And
Yeah.
actually, Sarah and I were talking about, this is a beyond cap, but this is a knockoff benefit of it's gonna be way quieter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a
And
big deal.
then not talking about the greenhouse gas emissions, but it's diesel and diesel lawn equipment is dirtier than a diesel car in terms of it just smells nasty and particulates and stuff. So it's something that's very
Well, then-
visible for folks
Yeah.
that they like a nice feel, but like who loves hearing a lawnmower, right? So there's that aspect of it. And then this is
People
also
that
an
like hearing
opportunity.
Gas-powered leaf blowers.
I don't want to wax too poetic about it, but it's also like an opportunity for us to be a climate leader. Like we will be the first, like all of the, the county of, and all of the cities, none of them are doing this and all of them are interested in concept and we would be going first. And we don't go first a lot. That has not been the philosophy, the practice, and then in practicality, right? We don't have the economies of scale that San Rafael, Novato, and then the county does. So just practically, sometimes they're a little bit ahead of
And
us.
then
Well, I would give you guys kudos and think it sounds great.
last
but-
but not least, last
Yeah.
but not least, the health benefits to the employees.
Yeah.
Who are
Yeah.
sitting on those
Yeah.
farms, right?
So the county really isn't saying, we want one too? We can get a deal on this?
Well, so
We're mowing all the time.
I don't want to speak, for county staff, et cetera, but they do have some, I'll get Katie, I see your hand.
Yeah.
They do have some electric push mowers for really smaller scale, mowing that they do, and they do have electric leaf blowers and they have electric hedge trimmers. You know, the county is a much bigger organization and has a lot, they have a lot more space they have to cover literally. So for them to make a change like that in terms of what they purchase and to do a pilot program and to change their budget, et cetera. And it's not because they're not innovative or they're not interested. It's just a bigger ship, it's just a bigger ship to turn.
Yeah.
And so when they did their
Right, you
analysis, and the
show how
county's
the
shown
numbers
great
should move.
leadership on so much else, right? Like they really are also
Yeah.
great partners with cities. It is not like that at all counties, by the way, in terms of
Yeah.
how closely they work with cities across the state. I think it was one of those things when they were doing the over under on what to focus on, et cetera. Also, this mower, it's very proof of concept. So I think there's also, if this fails, we've said, and the council's backed us up of like, if it fails, it fails, and it was an experiment, and we'll wait for these to get better. We'll wait for these
That's
machines
why
to
I'm
get better.
thinking maybe go with one.
But hold on, like, then the cost of a gas mower is the same price. So, and we're still gonna have our gas mowers as backup. So,
So I think that was what was expressed from the county. I mean, even in Larkspur, when we were talking about, electrifying leaf blowers, electrifying hedge trimmers, et cetera. When we did that in 2017, Public Works will be like, it's possible, but it's going to be a big pain. By like 2022, Public Works was like, oh, these are way better. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
technology's
all about
improved.
capacity.
So, even in, I think it was around 2023 when we were talking about mowers, they're like, we can't do all push mowers. Like Piper Park is too big. And they're like, the technology is just not there that we see. And it's available now to purchase. Like it's already changed so fast in a,
Awesome.
Katie, you had your hand raised. I want to make sure that
Yeah,
we
let's
can
confirm.
hear your contribution.
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to jump in and say I've been thinking about this since our last meeting, and I think I share David's perspective that we need to see the analysis back from the county and analyst. And I would also want to factor in, I'm sure this person will already do it, obviously, Shannon, but like the full life cycle of the equipment, right? Like I just for what it's worth, I've just been thinking a lot about it, and I think the high visibility, the co-benefits, and I guess let me put it this way. I've been looking and listening for all of the gas powered, leaf blowers and mowers just at residences, and there are a lot. And I don't think people realize how much there are, how frequent this is in the community. To have this signal from the city, to march it in the 4th of July parade, if not this year, then next year. I just think it is and to be a leader, I'm excited too. You can't see me gesticulating here, but I do think that to be a leader, I'm really proud to say someone kind of has to be the first one to stick their neck out. And I understand it comes with risks, and I certainly wouldn't want to be reckless about it. But if staff is feeling like it's a great idea, if council or Sarah, you know, in your representation of council thinks it makes a lot of sense on multiple fronts. I'm growing more and more interested in it. The only thing I would need to see is that last analysis, and if we are like really underwhelmed by the emissions. So whatever we can do to like get some benchmarking or like really compare it to some other key actions, Shannon, so that like we can make a good decision about is that emissions, you know, reduction contribution as it should be. Otherwise, I'm pretty all in on this, and I would go for 2 instead of 1, especially if you're going to build the infrastructure for charging.
Yeah, good thoughts, Katie. Thank you for that suggestion. I kind of want to say like we're already down the path of 1. So the question is are the emissions worth the second?
Yeah.
Can you do an equation that says dollars per ton of emissions?
I need to ask, I'm not that analyst, so we need to ask the analyst. The other thing, and again, I get that this is a separate thing, but and we literally had this conversation with Public Works today. So in terms of like, I don't want to speak for them about citing a second vehicle, et cetera. He said he'd work on it. He was like, I'll be on it. But that was a conversation I had at like 11 a.m. And we're here at this meeting now.
Yeah.
You know, for the visibility part of it, when you look at the operations, one mower only lives in Piper Park, right? We don't want to be bringing it around town. We don't want wear and tear on it. So if we had to, in terms of optics, right, like the other one, I'm assuming, would be the one that we'd be putting in other parts of town for people who maybe don't use Piper, right? So you'd be, you'd be on the other side.
You brought up a little bit ago that I guess I'm unclear on the answer of is you said the battery didn't last long enough. Like, is this
4
will these-
hours.
is this going to be adequate?
Well, so they would just have to recharge it after. So
Yeah, so,
we have
so,
4 hours worth of battery, which is, I mean, they don't.
yeah, I mean, normally, how long are they gonna be out for a grass cutting? Do they spend 8 hours doing it or
I
do they
understand.
get most of what they need accomplished in 4 hours? I think that'd be good to know.
It
you know,
depends on the park. It depends on the site. I can get the numbers for Piper Park, right, which I think is kind of the iconic example, and definitely our workhorse. Because also, not to get too technical, right, but Piper Park has a number of different uses where we want the grass to be nice for all our parks, but like that has a sporting purpose of like we cut it to a certain height because there's cricket out there because like it's just as a different recreation purpose than some of the others. It's a little more passive
right,
in terms of
you have a more precise requirement.
yeah. So I don't know. And then the other, again, I want to just be mindful of context.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
got
I'm most here. But the other thing that the public works superintendent told us that's not always appreciated is not only is like the battery out, right? So it's drawn down. We don't know yet, but with our hedge trimmers and some of our leaf blowers, they can also overheat, and then you have to let them cool down and chill out for a while if you're using them all the time. So we're not quote unquote worried about it, but that's going to be one of our assessments is,
What's
How-
the
how
downtime?
practical.
what's the downtime? Does it really overheat? This is a pretty big machine, and I think the battery looks much closer to a car battery than a hedge trimmer does.
You don't get 2 batteries, so you switch out the battery.
No.
I mean, that's what
For
we do
this-
about
for
roofs.
this-
It's like a car.
Yeah, for this one,
Yeah.
no. So that was the thing about the switching out the batteries that he talked about is even if you switch out the batteries for the hedge trimmers, if you're using them
The machine.
they could just be overheated. They
The
could just be-
motor overheats,
Yeah.
but you can't keep using it even if you have a battery to replace, he was saying.
So what I'm hearing is get the data. We're going to move forward, I think, with this, certainly this first one, I keep
Yeah.
talking to the vendor, et cetera.
Yeah, and see if there's, I mean, are there no other cities or public
There
entities
are.
that have
There are a couple of other clients they have. So there's none in Marin.
commercial?
Yeah, with the sales, right? The sales rep, when they're talking about this is not being adopted at scale. Like if anything, I'm a little bit worried that they're not going to continue this model because they're
Yeah.
not moving units. But
Yeah.
when there are other use cases where they're either private or other quasi-public. I don't know if the sales rep shared that or if they kind of.
Well, that'd be helpful. I mean, if we have the more, results that we have to, case studies or whatever, the more data on their performance and their reliability and, I just think we should minimize our risk. And I think we can with as much good information as we can get.
Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of this meeting. I don't know if we want to put a pin in this or if folks can stay a little bit later. There's a lot here. If you've read through this spreadsheet that if you want to call out something, I'm happy to address if you have notes on it. I think we came up with some great ideas around public outreach, but the comments kind of speak for themselves in terms of putting things in a newsletter, doing some outreach, etc., to where I don't want to speak for it, but
I think it's also important to remind everybody here that this is a working document.
Yeah.
And we're looking for input
Yeah.
from you guys. We don't have to do it here in this meeting. It can happen through email conversations. So I don't know if everybody's had a chance to fully review the notes that we've added since our special meeting, but if people could go back and review it and send us email comments and just reply all so everybody gets visibility into what people's questions and comments are. It's going to continue to evolve.
So I just want to say, I guess I mentioned this earlier. I think this really is great stuff that's added in here because it's turned it into concrete, specific, actual things. So I think we're on a good path here.
yeah, I'll just share a couple of quick things for our updates. At the season finale for Music in the Parks on the 19th, Resilient Neighborhoods will be tabling. So they'll have a presence there. And then it is penciled in for September 17th. We're going to be doing a webinar co-sponsored by the city and Resilient Neighborhoods in the big room in the library. To do, instead of the full Resilient Neighborhood series, what can you do to take action?
But one other thing I want to comment on is that list of other events that are going on that could be, what's the word,
Branded?
co-branded with other events. And when I read that, I was thinking about the comment, I think I shared it with this group last time, is that there's been 2 recent clean energy fairs, and neither of them have been well attended. And the most recent one was up in Fairfax. I went up there and there was heavy involvement by Marin County in that. One of the sustainability team members was heavily involved in planning and so on. And I talked to her as well as Dana Armanino, the lead for the sustainability team. And one of the comments Dana made is she really thought if you're doing any kind of a fair related to energy, that you really need to bring something else to it to get people to come. Like she was saying, have a band or a bounce house or something, but doing it as part of another event and bringing the energy stuff to that.
Yeah.
I think is probably a really good way to do it. The one other thought that I had for this list is it did propose in here doing a kind of fair. It was like a
Repair fair, clothing
repair
swap.
thing. And I just want to point out that Corte Madera does have a formal climate or sustainability committee. They have a climate coordinator position on staff. And so I would think that if Larkspur was going to do some kind of fair sponsorship that wasn't a co-branded with some other event, which probably is the best way to do it, is to not forget possibly to partner with Corte Madera on something.
Yeah.
And then you get the combined jurisdictions as well as resources on that.
Katie, did you want to say anything before we adjourn?
No, I would just say thank you. I will spend some time with the rest of the actions that we didn't cover, but I think this is really good progress, and I'm just really proud to be a part of this group for getting this to such a concrete place. And just huge thank you, Shannon, and to all of staff, and to you, Sarah, too. Like, it's really comforting to see all this good work.
So Katie, since you're still on, I do want to ask a follow-up question about that 4th of July stuff. So you're going to go ahead and get a spot, but Sarah, do you have the lead to sort of say, okay, we're going to get together on this date and somebody's going to get materials? I mean, in my experience, somebody needs to take the lead on that.
Yeah,
And other
I
people
can't.
may come and help, but somebody's going to take the lead on it.
I hadn't taken the lead on it only because I have a lot to do too. I'm okay maybe to work with Shannon on leading it. I mean, I've already
I
reached out.
think we reach out to high school. She's seeing, from what you told me, not to volunteer people who are not here, but it seemed like she was very interested and a decent part of that cohort would be there. They may be able to meet and they're going to want to meet, they'll include us, but want to meet amongst themselves and maybe take the lead on this in terms of staff facilitating. And again, I just want to, if anyone has bounced, but Now, keep in mind, there are no expectations. We have never been in the parade again, right? So showing up in the parade and walking in it is already
Yeah.
100% more than we've done any other parade, right?
Yeah.
So let's
And if-
not,
if
I'm
you-
with you, David, though. It's easy to say, to
Maybe
iterate.
it's not-
My experience, somebody needs to sort of
But
nudge it.
in terms of what's,
I am doing that, David,
Okay.
but I just can't officially say like, yeah, I'm gonna establish a meeting and we're gonna have a meeting. I'm just trying to reach out.
that'll be
To
too
the
hard.
different-
But I think what we can do is say, I will say spot the parade. I will see if we can get our electric, cart in the parade, right? So we already have that at a minimum.
Yeah,
And say whatever people want to bring your electric leaf blower, bring your whatever, come on down and do a.
You know,
Yeah, I would say
We'll have a
if
sign.
frankly,
Yeah.
if there were just a bunch of people with electric leaf blowers, I mean, one of the biggest complaints is people
Yeah.
are still using gas powered blowers.
Yeah, to be
Well,
totally
really-
honest, if I may, just I know we're excited about the costume idea. I know that I'm the one who volunteered it. I just do not want it to be a bottleneck to just getting something done that's simple and easy to coordinate. So I would be in favor of changing it to people holding leaf blowers and being present if it's faster and better.
And if it materializes and the drama group like can, is really into that, is like we can create the best costume in,
Yeah.
one evening and blow your minds. That's all good, but I will send you the dates for the parade in terms of like when we need to show up, right? Like whatever else the parade. I've attended the parade, but I've never walked in or participated in the parade. Any other kind of parameters and stuff, so people know what they're signing up for day of. If you just, are
Yeah.
building up, that'll be staff's contribution.
The thing that I was raising my hand about was I just wanted to remind you that another educational outreach opportunity is to a whole bunch of 70 and 80 and 90-year-olds at the Corte Madera Women's Club. When you were talking about doing joint events with Corte Madera, that made me think about that. The Corte Madera Women's Club is definitely a Twin Cities women's club.
Okay.
And I can't say I've been active in it in quite some time, but when it was at risk of dying, there were only 2 members left, and my friend said, "Oh, come on, we got to keep it alive for 2 more years so it can get to its 100th anniversary." And I said, "Well, I can lead a brown bag lunch every 4th Tuesday," and so it's a very interested group of women, and when CAF wants to make a presentation, or when the guy from PG&E wants to do that thing, MCL is a better venue for sure, but it's another venue that I think shouldn't be overlooked because it is Twin Cities specific, and it's a pretty dynamic group of women.
Okay, so you're suggesting going to their luncheon though, not inviting them, say, to our webinar series that we're planning to do.
I would
anyway.
definitely invite them.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah, because I'm
They
not
do a
really.
newsletter every month, so
Okay.
there's no reason that. I mean, maybe they're already part of the distribution and they already know everything about the climate corner and those things.
I doubt
but
it.
It's a
This is
a
the
link
first-
that I
This is
sort
the
of
first I've heard this for
Yeah, me too.
around for a while.
Sorry, guys, I have to hop,
Yeah, bye,
but
Katie.
thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Katie.
they helped build the Lions Club, and the Corte Madera Women's Club built the rec center 100 years ago. So they raised that the women raised the money with the bake sales initially, and that's where the 2x4s came from.
That's
And the men stood around smoking cigars while the workers built the building.
They pretty much built it, but
I'm going to end the meeting.
Okay.